Welcome to My Man the Maker's motorcycle channel. Today we're going to be looking at these front brake calipers for Easy Rider. These are the calipers from hell. You may have already seen the video where I took them off the front disc, which is here. I ended up using a screwdriver, a hex key, and a piece of wood to knock the calipers off the disc. And when they came off, they disintegrated into a bunch of parts. The pads actually were, here's the backing plate for the disc pads, and as you can see, the rivets are completely corroded away, so the braking material that was originally connected to these backing plates just fell off. So they had rusted, the rust had grown between the two materials to the point where they actually popped the abrasive material off the face. Now the problem with these calipers is I think they're what you would call old school calipers. They're in two parts. Here's the piston. These pistons are supposed to move in and out with hydraulic pressure and push these brake pads. This is the moving pad, which sits against these pistons, and this is the stationary pad, which kind of sits there, and the rotor gets squeezed in between these things. Well, I mean, the whole thing is just a big mess. The pistons are completely seized, the pads are rusted into two parts, and my big problem is this pin was all corroded. I couldn't get it off, and this is a two-piece caliper, so this piece fits here. Now it just slides on and then comes over, and there's a bolt between these two parts here that allows this to slide in and out on a pin, and there's a fitting here. The rubber was all completely disintegrated and falling apart, so those are the seals. So I used some sandpaper to clean up this area so it slides nicely, and I also stripped off all of the paint and as much of the grease as I could from this part here. So this part's fairly clean now. It needs a bit more work, let's say polishing and cleaning, but generally speaking it's in okay shape. So with this part more or less, let's say at 90%, I have to turn my attention to this part, the body of the caliper. It's nowhere near 90%. I've got further work to do on this pin here. I need to make this pin as smooth as possible. And I have this pin. This is called a hanger pin or hanger bolt, and I can't get at it. There's a cover, and my worst fears have been realized. This cover is made out of steel. This caliper body is made out of aluminum, and what's happened is a chemical reaction has occurred between the steel and the aluminum called galling, which I've talked about in previous videos. And this pin cover cannot be moved. If you take a look at the head, I have used all kinds of different tools on it. I've used heat, I've used large screwdrivers, I've used, you name it, I've used wrenches on screwdrivers. Nothing is moving this thing, and that slot is getting destroyed. So eventually I'm running out of opportunities to get this thing out, and I'm going to have to drill it out with a bolt remover, which I really don't want to do. And then of course once I get the cover out, I have to deal with this thing, and this thing is threaded here. It's actually got threads on the head. So once I get that in, once I get this out, I have this to contend with, and who knows how difficult that's going to be. And I also want to clean the paint off of this thing. The paint's just a mess. So I'm going to take it right back to the aluminum color, which I think is more in keeping with Easy Rider's overall color scheme, which currently is silver and flat black. There's no yellow anywhere. So that's the caliper from hell. It's turning out to be quite a challenge. I've been working on this thing for 3 days now, and I mean, I've made some cosmetic changes to the second part, so it's starting to look a little more like a normal thing. I have to source all the rubber parts. And the other thing, of course, is that you have to take a look at some of this hardware. For example, this is the bolt. I mean, look at the condition of this bolt. That's supposed to go in. I'm going to get my orientation here. That goes. So if this guy goes on here like that, see? That's nice. This guy, this bolt here, it screws in right there. Oops, let me get this going here. There. Okay, it screws in a bit. And it's, believe it or not, that thing is supposed to be sliding here in a rubber seal. I mean, there's no way that's going to slide. Look at the condition of that. It's just terrible. So I have to clean that off and get that kind of sort of new. I messed up the clip that sits on the... I mean, both of these clips are a disaster. Here's the seal. It's supposed to go in here. It's all messed up. Even my bleeder valve is a mess. Look at that. It's just all nasty. And there weren't enough crush washers. Apparently there's supposed to be 2 per bolt. I only have 1. This is for the actual brake line. These 2 bolts, which hold the assembly, the caliper, to the forks, they're okay. They're looking decent. So they go in where? Where do they go in again? Let me see if I got this right here. That's it. Here. And maybe it's on the other side here. Yeah, here they are. These 2 guys, one goes here, and one goes here. So they're looking okay, but everything else, look at that. Look at the condition of that bolt. What a mess. So, yes, the calipers from hell story continues. I think I'm definitely going to need these clips, replacement clips. I have grave concerns about this stem. This looks okay, but I only got 1 washer. In theory, there's supposed to be 2. This movable thing is okay. This is looking alright, except for that 1 bolt. I'll try and clean that up with a wire wheel and see how that works out, but that's just a complete mess. These guys are okay, and this thing cleaned up more or less okay. But my big concern is this hanger bolt. I have no clue how to get it off. I've purchased an impact hammer. Let's see if that works. And I'm also using a fancy penetrating oil. But there's stories abound on the internet about how this thing is hard to remove and how this thing is also hard to remove. So that's where we stand with the calipers from hell. And they sure are. A very complicated and potentially very expensive repair. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, giving me a like, and leaving me a comment. I really enjoy making these videos, and I want to know from you how I can make them better. The whole point of these videos is to demonstrate that if I can do something, you can do it too. Well, that's it for now. So long, and remember, keep making.